All right, now we're officially started. So welcome everyone. This is the final session of the symposium on adaptability. So we'll be talking about how we can kind of adapt to change during the pandemic in our industry, as well as adapting to going from school to the workplace. So my name is Allison Mann. I will be your moderator for this final session of the symposium. I actually graduated from NAU in 2018, where I then went on to accept a position at Gensler in Phoenix as an interior designer. And so Sarah will actually be taking Q&A questions. So if you have any questions throughout the panel, just write them in there, and then we have a little time after all that we answer all the questions to kind of go through and answer what you guys are wanting to ask about. So before we jump in, we're gonna kind of go round table, figure of speech, and kind of introduce everyone here. So I'll also start with Sophia, if you want to introduce yourself and what year you graduated and what you're doing now.
Hi, I'm Sophia Pappas. So I graduated NAU in 2015. And right now what I'm doing is I work for a company called Edgequarters. So we work mainly with tech companies in the workplace, and we do all of the furniture and all of the interior design for it. So we're a women-owned business. There's just 4 of us. But we have really big clients like Carvana and Indeed.com, and so yeah, we worked with them for a while in the whole tech world.
Awesome. And then Rachel, if you want to go.
Hi, my name is Rachel Poole-Philhauer. I graduated NAU in 2016, and I went the museum design curation route for a few years, and I just finished my master's degree in May from the Parsons School of Design in New York. And now I am a recent hire this past summer at Restoration Hardware here in Scottsdale.
Awesome. Mallory?
Hi, I'm Mallory. I graduated in 2018 with Allison and Tristan. I got hired at Triarch Architecture and Design right out of school, so I've been there ever since. So I've been there a little over 2 years now. I am a project designer, so I basically design and manage my own projects. Triarch does a lot of healthcare. We pretty much do everything, but that's our main focus. So I specialize in healthcare and corporate office design.
Nice. Tristan?
I'm Tristan Hess. I graduated in 2018. Right now I'm working on a master's degree, and I'm working out of the Draper and Menard prototyping lab on my campus. So I get to play around with all the fun equipment like laser cutters and 3D printers and CNC routers. And I'm focused on flat pack furniture right now. So I'm experimenting with that, and then outdoor gear design. So I don't have the traditional interior design pathway, I guess. I kind of went off and did my own thing for a little bit.
Awesome. Well, thank you for all your introductions. We'll kind of just jump into one of our first questions, which is what have you had to learn about being adaptable in the workplace due to this pandemic? So again, a lot of our panel questions are kind of focused around COVID, but feel free to kind of add any other anecdotes of adapting from out of school as well. So we'll just kind of go in the same order that we introduced ourselves in.
Hi, okay. Hi, Sophia again. So a big thing obviously is working from home. I think being able to be flexible in your space and having kind of a sanctuary that is your home office away from everything else is really important. And also just being super flexible with kind of the different changes of what the clients are needing and what is on hold and what kind of is really important, and understanding the clients and where their mindset is, because it's a big change for all of us. And, you know, if you're working in commercial, there's just a lot of unknown. So just being able to constantly be able to like provide them with whatever they need right away, make them feel comfortable, be able to like adapt any of the workstations or any of their needs right now is super important. So it might look different from your day to day, but this isn't forever. So, yeah.
Go ahead, Rachel, or anyone really. I guess we can just do this organically.
No, so I was actually finishing up my master's degree when COVID started in New York City. So that taught me some really great lessons about how to be adaptable during your graduate degree. You know, like Sophia said, making a good workspace for yourself at home. And it was really important that I was able to understand Zoom and how to not only distance learn for myself and just kind of keep that discipline to finish out school, but I was also teaching a history of design class to undergraduate students. So it was important for me to know the technology so that I could help my students in any way that I could. They were also moving back home to different time zones. So it was important to just be really understanding of their different schedules and how they were also trying to adapt by being at home with a bunch of different people. And then I actually transitioned into the workplace after school. It's crazy that this has been going on now for almost 6 months. So I've had a little bit of both. So now I'm actually in the workplace as a new hire. I am working outside of my home at Restoration Hardware here in Scottsdale. So I think what's been most important is just remembering to stay safe, to keep my coworkers safe, and to keep our clients safe. And it's important to really just follow protocol when we're making site visits, and to make sure that everyone's on the same page about safety standards so that we can safely run our business.
Nice.
I would say, oh, sorry.
Oh, you're good. Go for it, Tristan.
I would agree with that with the grad program and stuff. A lot of my projects got shut down last year because of that. So I wasn't able to use all the equipment that I thought I was going to be able to use for all the designs that I had come out with. So I had to do it all by hand and stuff, which was also a really great experience because I think it's important to understand how things work like that. And I would say in a broader sense of adaptability, I think one of the great things about design is that it's this borderless thing. So you have the opportunities to experiment with other things besides interior design. You have architects that are designing furniture. You have graphic designers that are working with interior designers for things like wayfinding. You have all of these different areas that you can focus on. And I think interior design is a really great starting point. But there's so much more that you can explore. So I think it'll also set you up to have other experiences that'll give you a foot up above, other individuals maybe that have not gone off and explored. That's kind of been the case for myself, using what I've learned in the interior design program and working on a master's program where I'm really able to develop and cater my own schedule. But I'm using what I learned in the interior design program, that ability to think differently and think as a designer, I think is really impactful. So I would say, don't be so confined to just focusing on interiors, but focus on, graphics or product design or architecture or, things like that.
I think that's a really good point. I think it's also right now, not even just interior designs, but just brands as a general, like they're reinventing themselves. And kind of, so many people have lost their jobs that I know tons of people that just have kind of created their own new jobs. And so being able to be super flexible and kind of reinvent yourself and your brand is super important right now. So just looking ahead and finding like a niche thing that you could make your own and kind of have your own spin on it. And it doesn't necessarily have to be interior design, but there's a lot of partnerships that are happening right now with designers. So I think that's super important.
That's all good. With the adaptability, I've learned that we don't really have a choice. We have to be adaptable, especially in this career field. Mm-hmm. Projects have to go on. You can't just stop them. And like where I work at Triarch, a lot of our projects are healthcare. So those projects, they sped up. We got a lot of new projects during the whole COVID situation. And it was just more, we had to learn how to be adaptable as a firm from working from home. Most people ended up working from home. And I think I'm fortunate to work at a firm that's super flexible. So I gave the working from home about 6 weeks until I was like, I can't do this. So I was able to go back in the office. But working from home, you have to learn how to be super thorough with communicating, because for like my office, we have a complete open office. There's like 20 of us in an open bullpen, and I can just go up and talk to anybody during the day and ask my questions. There's tons of collaboration going on in these projects. It's not like one person per project. It's like 5 of us, 10 of us on one project, depending on the size. So learning how to use our resources and being really thorough with communication is kind of how we were able to kind of keep things going and rolling in a good direction, and just getting creative. Being able to reach out to clients during this and just seeing how everybody is doing is good, and also suggesting our services in a way that a lot of offices, since everybody's remote, we were able to get creative, like, oh, do you guys need to do any like refreshes, or do you have projects you want to get going? That'll be easier because people aren't in the office. So we've been able to market in different ways than we would have if this never happened.
Yeah, I could kind of pinpoint off the communication side of that too. I mean, you kind of realize what you took for granted when you were in in a workplace with a lot of people on a day-to-day basis, or even if you're in school and you're with people. I always had that, someone to go to, a project manager or someone to just answer a question with, and now I have to type an email or phone someone, or it really has made me adapt to being able to do it myself, or kind of figure out a solution rather than trying to, ping someone as much as I can. It kind of gets old. And I think using our technology, working at Gensler, we have a lot of design technology where we were able to kind of leverage the transition from the office to home pretty seamlessly, but at the same time, you still want the face-to-face. And I think just being able to adapt to the fact that this has been 6 months, so how am I going to get my projects done, meet my deadlines in the same pace that I was doing when I was at work? So kind of the same thing there. It's really amazing to see how we've all kind of changed slightly. Yeah.
100%. I no longer can be like, hey, wait, what happened? What was that?
Yeah.
Like a hedgehog. Yeah.
And we're all like super creative people, and I'm not the best at emailing, or, that's not my strong suit. So having to relearn that, like, oh, I have to properly type an email. I can't just shout out something.
Yeah, or talk on a phone and leave a voicemail. Like, that's something I tried to avoid if I could, but at the same time, now it's like, that's the only way you can communicate. So, Great. Well, awesome. If there's any more points on this topic, we'll kind of move forward to the next question. So the next question is kind of a fun one. So how has the learning curve gone from school to the industry, or learning curve gone for you, Tristan, from the interior design program to a master's program?
So after graduation, I worked for an architecture firm for a little bit, and that was super stressful. It was a lot harder. It's super fast paced. The place that I was working for was just myself and 2 architects who had started their own architecture firm. So when you work at a smaller firm like that, I'm sure it's true for any place that you're working at, but you have to get stuff done like that day and super fast. You don't have a lot of time to dink around and stuff. So it was good though. It was a good learning experience. You get a lot of questions answered really fast for how to think differently, but also how to work more efficiently, which are things that I've taken with me into the master's program now with that. But yeah, so it was fun. It's hard, but it's good, and it also kind of taught me that good design, it takes time. You have to be patient with it, especially if you're going for a human-centered design approach, where it's focused on the user and the functions and everything. It doesn't just happen overnight. It's this thing that is a constant cycle. Yeah, so you just be patient, I guess, but learn and understand the process and adapt to your way of thinking about things. The master's program has been really good. it's not an interior design program, but I'm able to take what I've learned in the program and apply it to product design and to furniture design, which I really like. So it's going good with that in that regard.
I think going off of what Tristan is saying, I worked for a bit and then I went back to school. I think like what you said, time management is so important. You learn that in the workplace right after school, that things have to get done that day. A lot of times in school, in the design program, we would have like a month to work on a project, but then in the workplace, you need to get something done that day. And that's a really important skill to kind of hone early on so that you can succeed in the workplace. And then going back to school a few years later, it's the same exact situation in grad school. You have so many more opportunities in grad school to have fellowships and to work and to travel abroad and work on your thesis. And it's so important to have good communication with everyone around you so that you can collaborate. There's definitely much more collaboration, I felt like, in the master's program, which was super helpful since everyone came from different backgrounds. But also your time management skills are really important going back to school, because at that point you could be balancing a family, a job, all these different things that you might not have had in your undergrad program. So I would just second that.
Yeah.
Time management is so key when you want to go back to school.
For the hundreds of thousands of you listening right now, you're getting that big design degree. You're gonna come out of this program with a big design degree, and this little mouse finger right here is gonna be worth some money someday. So make sure that you can make that thing efficient as possible, because it's gonna save you a lot of time when you know how to use that little mouse finger of yours.
He's right. Efficiency is key. So depending on what you do after school, for my case, I went straight to work at an architecture firm, and you have to be like a sponge. There's so much more to learn than you get to learn in the 4 years at school. So you have to be really like confident too in the way, because I studied interior design, but I'm at an architecture firm. We do design as well. But basically the things I was learning, I was like, I'm not smart enough. This is why I did interiors, not architecture. Like I'm more creative than I am like technical. But I think it's just the mindset. I had to kind of change my mindset around, like, okay, no, I'm capable of doing this. And I have the people here to teach me. So my learning curve was more instilling confidence in myself and just being more able to absorb what I was learning. Because there's a lot more to learn. Yeah. But it's very exciting.
Yeah, I totally was in the same kind of boat as you were. I tried on a lot of different hats with interior design, and kind of then found my place. So you just have to be willing to learn from others, because it's not just you doing a project. You're working with the whole team of people, and everybody has, their specialty and you just need to trust them and listen to them and learn from them, because ultimately it makes you a better designer. And you can't come in there being like, I'm fresh out of school, I know what I'm talking about. Like, you have to trust people, and you really, really need, like, you'll find somebody with whatever avenue you guys go into, there'll be like a mentorship for sure, and just be like, teach me everything. I will listen to you. I will do whatever. And then slowly you start to realize, oh, I have somebody that needs me now. And you're only as good as the people that you're surrounded by. So that was a big thing, is being humble, listening, learning, being polite, doing your work on time. Even if it's, one of like my first tasks in design school, they sent me to like this really awful job site, and I had a field dimension. I was there for probably 8 hours in this dark, gross, stinking hot place. And I'm like,
dang.
All right, whatever. And like, it was my first day, so I was all looking pretty and like, okay, I'm ready to like, be an interior designer, and it's tough. So you just gotta kind of work from the bottom and really put in that time. So it's not as glamorous as I think I had in my head.
No, yeah, absolutely. Sorry.
I would also say too, fail fast. Failing can be a good thing, and it is definitely, you can view it as a positive thing. When you come out of school and you go into the workforce, you're surrounded by people who have for the most part, have been in it a lot longer than you have, so they know a lot more than you. But it's okay to fail and just do it quickly so that you don't make the same mistakes again and learn from that.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
What Sophia said, I feel like I can relate to that also. I think it's so important in the workplace, you know, outside of school. You don't want to just stay within your job description. You know, it isn't as glamorous, but you want to let people know that you're adaptable and flexible and you're willing to do jobs that, you know, other people might not want to do, but you'll take them on. And it's important to help anyone in any way that you can, especially if you're new, to let people know that you're a team player and that, you know, you want to be collaborative as well, and that you're willing to take things on that might not necessarily be in your exact job description.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can kind of talk to that too. I like what you said, Sophia, about mentorship. Like, I mean, I remember they always talk about your first 60 days or 90 days. It went so fast, I can't remember, but those first couple months are just, you're just thinking, oh my God, I didn't know that. I didn't know that. I didn't know that. I didn't know that. Oh, I do know that one button in Revit that helped me learn that. But there's like, you know, there's so many things that you're going to absorb within the first couple months, and you think that you're going to be done after a year or so, but I'm 2 years in. I'm like just got thrown in during this COVID time a full construction administration process where I'm less about the design, more so managing construction side, and that is where I really, really have come to learn so much, and just like going from school to now in the construction process is like, that is where you're going to learn the most, I think, for sure.
Yeah, on site for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh, okay. There's a designer that's working in CAD and they're telling you to sit down, write down everything. There's so much shortcuts that you're like, what? Like, I didn't even know that was a thing. I've been doing the long way for so long. They're just like, and you're like, I shouldn't have this job. Why am I here?
They'll sit next to you.
Finger.
I know, they'll sit next to you. If you're like pressing buttons with the arrow, you know how we like go up to the arrow key or whatever. People are like, why are you doing that way? There's so many more efficient ways you should be doing this to like get your work done. You're like, what? Oh my gosh, there's so many ways to do things.
So many ways to do like things that.
Oh no.
In 5 seconds. And if I would have done that in school, it would have been so much better, or saved so much time. But I mean, it's all in the job.
Yeah. All right. Is there anything else to add? I think we kind of answered a lot of or at least some of the next question, but it's basically just like, what have you learned since graduating, and what would you tell your younger self? You know, your senior year of college self.
I would probably tell myself not to worry so much about what other people are doing. What you are doing will be unique in its own way, and it's a good way to learn from each other, because you're at school and you're at the interior design program to have fun and to try new things and to experiment with things, and also to learn from one another and help each other. And you can build that community, you know, at the school by doing those things. So don't let somebody else, if you are viewing them as someone that's really good at design, learn from them and ask them questions on how they did something. Is probably what I would tell myself. I would also say, know what you love and know what you hate, and see how those things can help you, can help pave a path for you in what you want to do with the interior design program. Work on a side project for friends or for family. I know schoolwork is, really tough and challenging, and you have a lot to do, but find something that you're passionate about, that you really enjoy doing, and see how you can put that into your design program, because maybe it'll turn into something. That's kind of what happened for me. I worked on all these little projects on the side that I really liked, and now they're part of my master's degree curriculum. So you never know what that thing could be and where it could go until you follow it.
Awesome.
So. Agree. I think that it's like, I think as a designer, we all have our ego, because you have to believe in yourself in order to sell yourself. But I think in school, it's 100%. You don't worry about what other people are doing. Or like, you're going to be fine. Everybody is going to spread in so many different ways in this industry, and just know what you like and have confidence in yourself. And yeah, learn from other people, and it's fine. It's not a competition. Everybody will get there. And follow the syllabus too, or like the directions of what they ask you to do. I learned the hard way. I'm like, I'm going to add this and I'm going to add this, so much unnecessary stuff. So when you're doing like your senior projects and they're looking for like, this is what I need, this is the pages, do that. I did not. And I learned, I think the second half, I'm like, why am I getting such bad grades? Like, my work is great, it's amazing. And it was simple things like I didn't number the page, or whatever it is. And so follow the directions. That's what I would have told myself anyways.
And I would say taking advantage of just every opportunity while you can, while you're a student. I just coming off of being a student again, it's such a special time where you're really just kind of putting all of your energy into studying and learning and collaborating with your peers. And I think, at NAU, I wish I would have taken advantage of just more opportunities outside of school. Like Tristan said, of course, your schoolwork, it is so important and it can be stressful, but just to have I would have wished, to have taken more informational interviews from local firms in Flagstaff or, Phoenix, and just kind of like spent time on the weekends really digging into what's around you, what resources are available to you as a student, and just spending more time, just kind of broadening your horizons outside of the classroom and your schoolwork to just take advantage of, things that you really only can while you are a student, and you have certain like breaks from school that you might not have when you're in the workplace. So it's just really such an important time to really discover and learn as much as you can.
Yeah, I would also say that when you find that thing that you are passionate about, and you're able to work on it along with your other projects that you have for school or whatever it is that you're doing, having that second thing will really help you it'll make you more excited about what you're doing, and you'll get excited. You'll see that you'll get excited about the work that you're currently doing, and then also these little projects that you're doing on the side and stuff. So it'll help push you, and you'll learn new things from that too.
What I've learned, and what I would tell myself, younger Mallory, is basically there's design in everything, and to not be stubborn about what kind of projects you're given at work or in, at school, because everything has a purpose. Everybody needs a space for some sort. I had all these dreams to do these really cool restaurants and stuff outside of college. I was like, I'm going to work at a restaurant design firm, but I got a job at a firm that's heavily in healthcare. And I was primarily doing imaging centers when I first started. And I was like, this isn't fun. Like, I don't really care about imaging equipment, but I learned how to design an imaging center so well, like how to place equipment, where everything goes, how everything's built, because the walls you build for an MRI room are super intense compared to walls that are in an x-ray room or a CT room. So I had to learn all about this equipment. And at first I was like, I don't like this, but then I learned like, there's a need for this. And it's really good that I have this specialty now in design. Like I can design an imaging center. And I had a project, and it was just like this little, it was a little clinic, but it had a foot x-ray. And I remember going on my construction kickoff meeting. I show up, I'm representing Triarch, and it's all these men, it's all the older men in the construction world. And I walk in and they're like, who are you? I was like, I'm with Triarch. They're like, you're the architect? I'm like, yes. And immediately they're like, okay, we have an issue. And they go right to the little foot x-ray room. And they point out all these things that are wrong. But since I had all this experience doing imaging centers, I was able to counteract them. Like, no, I don't need to lead line these walls because it's such a small x-ray. The lead is not that strong. You don't need to lead line them. You don't need a door. So immediately put them to rest. And I was like, wow, I'm really happy that I buckled down and I took that experience I was given to work in imaging centers, because there's design is everywhere. Design's in every project. So I would say don't be stubborn.
Do you feel like the construction guys were like testing you? Because I have that experience a lot.
Absolutely. They see you walk in and you're this young person, especially being a female going on a construction site. They want to challenge you. I've had that happen so many times. They're like, you're missing exit signs. in this room. And so I'm like, okay, let's look at the electrical drawings. Flip to the page. Oh, look it. Here it is. Here's it's called out. Here's a specific spec. We didn't call it something generic. Like it's funny how challenged you're going to be as a young designer. But it's like, if you just know what you're talking about, you're good. And it's okay if you don't know.
Yeah.
If somebody tries to challenge you and say something on site and you don't know, you be honest. Don't make something up. Just say, you know what, let me look into that for you. I need to talk to other people and I will call you back with an answer. So don't ever fake it. But if you know, then you're good.
Yeah, Mallory.
Number one, 100%. I would always feel like I needed to have an answer right away. And it's okay to say, you know what, that's a good question. Let me figure out the answer and I'll get back to you. And you can just keep it as simple as that. You don't need to always have the answers. It's okay to be like, I don't know.
Yeah,
exactly.
I would tell my younger self, like, out of school, I had so much pressure on myself to perform. Like, oh my God, like, I thought they were gonna fire me. I thought I had to know everything right out of school, and you really quickly learn that that's not the case at all, and that you're there to learn again, and that you will find your passion through your experience in design, wherever that takes you. So you may not know where you want to go right away, but you definitely need to trust yourself and know that you're not going to know it all, and that you cannot have all these expectations in yourself. And again, like saying, I'm 2 years in, I'm still saying, I can't answer that question. I'm going to have to go to my project manager, or I'm going to have to go with our lead architect on the project to get you a more like correct answer. There's things like that you just have to realize that you're not going to know every answer. You're not going to be perfect right out of school. So I had a lot of pressure on myself being on the swim team, and then I had a lot of pressure on myself as a student in the NAU program to be like the best. But it really doesn't matter until you get into the work, in the industry, and you just have to like nod your head and realize that you're gonna make mistakes, and they're gonna be big ones and there's gonna be really tiny ones, but the point is you can't get upset about it and you have to move on. So that's probably the biggest thing, is just like learning not to stress and just kind of pick yourself up your feet and just go on and move on and be better, because there are so many things that I've just realized that I have a focus in, I'm really good at, and that I just love doing. And that passion has driven me to keep going in this industry and just like see where it will take me. So I think, that kind of speaks for everyone. It's just, don't stress. Be happy.
I've loved listening to you guys talk and converse. It has been so fun. And I think now we'll turn to answering questions that students who are listening in have. The first one, when you guys started talking about your first jobs, the question is, did you use Handshake to find these jobs, or would you recommend doing something else? How did you land your jobs?
Indeed.
Indeed?
I found Triarch and Indeed, and they called me for a phone interview the same day I applied.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so whenever we are hiring, our HR company that we work with, they post on Indeed, and that's how I found them. And we're still hiring. It's a great firm.
I have a few different ways. I would say your contacts are so important. Whoever you meet during school, field trips that you take, site visits, going to something like that, Las Vegas Design Week, just keep track of people's business cards, keep track of your contacts, and check in with them every now and then. It's so important to let them know that you're driven and focused, and just check in with them, see how they're doing, if they need any help, if they need volunteers or interns. And it's several opportunities I've gotten, including my first job out of NAU was through people I knew through contacts. And then kind of on the opposite, finding my job at Restoration Hardware was Google Jobs. I was in quarantine coming back from New York City and Arizona, and I Googled design jobs Arizona, and it popped up on Google Jobs. I've come across some people that don't know, they didn't know Google did jobs. So it is a really great service that Google is providing. And we're also hiring. Restoration Hardware is hiring a lot of people. So please get my, contact info from Sarah if, if anyone on
You
this
guys are all on LinkedIn. You're all on LinkedIn. So I
Yeah.
would say students
Connect
start
with me.
making connections. Yeah, go connect.
Yeah.
All of our panelists today throughout the day are on LinkedIn. So you can find them there. Okay, we're going to jump to another question unless anyone else wants to weigh in on that.
I'd say networking also.
Networking.
That's kind
I
of,
was gonna
kind of
say,
what you
yeah,
said. Yeah, networking.
connections. I applied to like 66 jobs, heard back from 20. They were all no's, or some of them were interviews, but just connections, like know who you know and making that contact, because that's how I ended up getting my job.
Yeah.
I found my job because I loved what these ladies were doing, and I like followed them on Instagram, and I was like, oh, I'm obsessed with what you guys are doing. So literally I sent them a message. I said, hey, let's grab coffee. And yeah, like you don't feel like you can't ask for a job, because you can. Like, even if it's just, if you know somebody of a place that you want to work, just say like, hey, I really want to know more about what you do or where you work. And they'll remember you when they're hiring. They're like, oh, girl reached out to me. And that was the one thing that she said. She's like, I just love that you reached out to us. I didn't have to reach out to find somebody. You came to us. So
I love that, Sophia, so much. Okay, since you are all still pretty early in your careers, it's by Whitney. This question is by Whitney. I'm curious to know if any of you have a dream job that you're working towards now that you have some experience under your belts.
I will say that my first job out of college, I think from the get-go, I was really just working towards going back for my master's, and that was such a dream of mine, to go to New York City and just be in the center of design and museums. And so I think it's, it's important to have goals and dreams and make them, just make them happen, step out of your comfort zone, and the rest will fall in place. And just, have those aspirations. You don't know where the future will take you or what's going to happen, like what's happening with COVID right now. So just like put yourself in positions to, get more of an education or take more opportunities, while you're young and while you're able to do it. And so I think it's just important to be constantly just always having something to be working towards. If that's a different job, going back to school, to just have those goals in mind.
That's good. I would say so at first, my ultimate goal was to get to New York City and work there. And I did apply to jobs there, but everyone's like, you need 2 years post-grad experience. You need experience. I'm like, okay. So now I have my experience, and I'm learning that there's different things that I am prioritizing in my life. And it's not, I guess, the project type. Like, I love where I work. I love the people I work with. Do I love my project types? Not really, but I think that the balance and the culture I get at my office outweighs the project. So, but that's probably different for some people. Maybe some people want something that like they can say, oh, I did that. Like everybody goes to this hotel or this restaurant. But for me, I've talked to other people, other designers that have come from big firms that are at my firm that just say like, oh, I did the coolest things, but I cried all the time. It was so stressful. People are so rude. And so I'm thinking about that. Me as a people person, I was like, I don't really care at this point. So I think I do have the experience now to get like a cooler dream job. I could probably get a job in New York City, especially because since I have such specialized experience in healthcare doing imaging, and I do surgery centers too. I think that is really helpful now to get more jobs, but I've learned that that's not what I want. I like the culture. I like the people I work with. So yeah. I think I have my dream job.
Culture is huge, Mallory. I totally agree with that. I think part of I've always been a Flagstaff girl at heart. I've always been someone who does not want to live in Phoenix, does not want the desert, does not want the heat. Even though I grew up in Phoenix, I was like, get me to the mountains, so wherever that will take me. But landing a job in Phoenix actually made me realize that, Gensler Phoenix, that particular company, their culture there is amazing. So just working with a group of talented people that are not only talented and smart, but they're also super, super friendly and nice, that really helped me kind of realize that I could kind of work on these awesome projects that come in, as well as some other really little ones that aren't, that are really quick. You get them done fast. But I just think, what was the question again? Yeah, just like, I feel like I'm going off on a tangent, but, I guess dream wise would just be being able to like work on awesome projects that come through the door, and just working with a team of really talented people, and just keep doing that for the rest of my life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, I have like so many dreams. But so, you know, I've always had in my head, I'm like, I really want a shop where people can get really cool, custom, modern things, because we don't have that in Phoenix, and we're too big of a city to not. And so I've worked with the ladies I work with now, and I've just told them like, hey, this is kind of what I want to do. And they're like, all right, let's do it. So
Cool.
I think if you're able to kind of share what you want to do and share your passions, you know, and kind of reinvent yourself and kind of go that avenue of working with different people and kind of different job experiences that can get you to your dream job. And I think you just, if there's something that you really want to do, don't put that on the back burner. Like, always be working towards it, because if you work hard enough, like, you definitely will get there. It's not silly to have a dream, because it happens. That's like whatever I like, so it should be like on a t-shirt or something. Follow your dreams, whatever it is.
Yeah.
I'll just say real quick, you know, like I said earlier, my dream was to go to New York, and it happened, but then I had to leave prematurely due to COVID, and it was really hard and sad. But also, like, don't get beaten down if your dream is cut short or if you don't make it. It's totally okay. Like, you know, we all have so much time ahead of us, and then the next door opened up, and I've been so happy at my current job. And so, you know, of course you always want to be working towards that, but like, don't let it bog you down. If, you know, if it's not happening right away, like, the next best thing is going to come along, and you can be happy doing so many different things.
It's a long journey. Just,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Rachel, really quick, someone was asking how you got into working at museums.
Sure. So kind of going off of what we were talking about earlier, like having side projects at NAU, I actually double majored in art history and museum studies at NAU. So that was kind of like a stress reliever from the interior design projects. I feel super lucky. I was able to really find that passion in art history and museums. And I used my summers to take internships at museums and get into curating as well as exhibition design. So I really took like my elective time at NAU to take other classes that interested me, and that turned into getting another degree as well. And those internships in the summers turned into my first curating job out of college. So it's definitely possible to do both, especially at NAU. You can get a minor in museum studies, you can get a minor in art management, and it was definitely doable while also doing the interior design program.
Awesome, thank you. So I'm going to combine, in the interest of time, we have basically enough time for probably 2 more questions. So I'm going to try to combine some questions to save time for our last and final one. But questions that we're getting in this feed is a lot about juggling. You know, they're overwhelmed by school projects. And so if they're doing that, what advice to manage and be successful up until graduation and make it the best experience possible while juggling things like internships and things like that and other opportunities?
Get used to it.
Yeah.
Oh, seriously.
You have to.
One question too, has your threshold grown? Right?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I was on the swim team at NAU, which required a lot of time as well, and then I was in the interior design program. But I always felt like I couldn't take on anything else, but that's just not the case.
Yeah.
You know, take all those internships as much as you can get, all the experience. Do side projects like Tristan said, because that's going to really help you learn on how to work in the industry when you get out of school.
Yeah.
A lot of
Like
it too with this profession is that a lot of times your work is your life and your life is your work. So that's kind of helped me in some sort of way to realize that it's never really going to be done. It's kind of this continuous thing that is happening.
Yeah.
Personal experience.
Don't take on too much though, because I've done that too, where I taken on too much and then like something else is slacking, you know, like I've found that once I'm doing like side projects and stuff and I have too much and work, that one of those things is going to suffer. So just kind of know your threshold and do them 100%. And if you find yourself not doing them 100%, you got to give something up, because you know, the client's not going to be happy, you're not going to be happy with it. So it's just, you know, as you get more experience, it's going to increase. But yeah, I've made that mistake before where I've been disappointed in something that I really was excited about at first, and it kind of suffered.
Like what Tristan said, get used to it. It's not a 9-to-5 job, and I know Allison can speak to this. If you have a lot of deadlines, you're going to be working later, you're going to be going to work earlier. It's just kind of the nature of the industry. It's being flexible and kind of taking on more. So you just, it's going to happen. But when you're doing something you love and you're with a good team, it's totally fine. Like, okay, oh shoot, where did the time go? It's 9 p.m. and I got here at 7 a.m. But it's like sometimes you're going to have those days. You're going to go in on the weekend. It's the nature of the industry. Design doesn't sleep.
But yeah, to that too, I mean, there's times where it's like school. You got to meet a deadline. So there's times where you're working really late, but then there's other times where you're like, I just worked really hard last week. Now I don't have as much work, so I'm going to enjoy it.
It's like
I'm going to take a day off, or, you know, work-life balance. Like for me, it's really important to keep my work-life balance, and I am the person who owns that. So like if I'm like, I'm off at 5 today, so see you later, people. This can be done tomorrow. The emails can wait. So that to Sophia's point, like you have a threshold and maintain your other hobbies that aren't related to work, or maintain just your own personal time just to keep your life going. But yeah, if you're passionate about it, you'll just be wanting to work and show up every day.
When you start at a place, you have to like set that right away, is know your boundaries. Because if you start off like, oh, I can just do whatever, which is what I did. I was like, I'll work until 9-10 o'clock at night. And then when you would go home at like, cause you work so hard, you're like, okay, well, I'm going to leave at 4. They'd be like, what, why are you leaving? And so you have to set that like expectation of like, no, I am going to take a lunch. I am going to leave at a certain time, because, you know, they're just going to take advantage of you, is what I have found. Or like know that that's what the expectation is. So if you set your own boundaries and you respect your time, then they'll respect your time as well.
Yeah, I think also for anyone listening who's still in school thinking about internships, just like what Sophia's saying, it's so important to set your boundaries and let your employer know, hey, I'm like a full-time student right now, or I'm a part-time student. I'm so interested in this, but you know, I can only commit to this many hours a week, and just let them know up front that your first priority is school, and that you really want to gain experience with them, but you have to set those boundaries up front. I feel like I've learned the hard way also, because they'll think you can be there full time. So it's just so important when you're taking on internships and fellowships that they know you're a full-time student, and this is the amount of hours that you can realistically commit to them each week.
Awesome. Okay, final question is what we've been asking all of our panelists, is what is the silver lining of this pandemic?
I would say that probably the biggest strides are accomplished when society is undergoing some sort of significant change. That's when innovation happens. It doesn't happen in periods of slow progress. It happens when there's a crisis or something like what we're experiencing right now. Or if you look back even to World War II, a lot of Europe was closing at that time. Artists, architects, designers were all coming to America. The Bauhaus movement came to Chicago, and then in turn influenced how American designers and American artists all thought about things. And today, with COVID, we have, you know, a similar situation where it's going to totally impact, you know, parts of society, but also interior design as well. What's the future home going to look like? You know, right now it's become this place of living. It's become a place of education. It's become a place of business and work. It's these flex spaces now, and that's totally going to change, you know, how furniture is made and materials that are going to come out. We're going to get antimicrobial materials that come out of it, and it's going to affect, how an interior designer operates and functions. Using things like copper as an antimicrobial that doesn't allow for bacteria or anything to grow on it, or looking to nature and looking at like the lotus leaf flower that's an antimicrobial, and maybe mimicking that and developing paint, that is antimicrobial, and look at all of these large corporations that like REI just had their new headquarters that they opened, and they're selling it now because they're switching to remote work, and Facebook and Twitter are allowing all of their employees to work from home now because of what's going on. So it's really going to shift how people think, and it's already starting to do that.
Yeah, I could also just add, like learning, I think the big silver lining for me was just learning how to adapt and use technology to leverage and make our clients feel like this transition has not affected them at all in the projects that we're working on for them. So I think a big thing was just how we can leverage technology in a pandemic world and how we can use that for the future, because I don't think it's going to go away. I think we're going to continue to use video calls and use technology more in the industry. And I think, as Tristan noted, like there's a lot of new changes in design that are happening because of the pandemic. And I think that's just awesome that we're able to kind of experience that, especially for those of you who are graduating right now. You're kind of witnessing a kind of a shift from being really flexible with our design strategies and having more open seating, and people having ability to choose where they want to sit, to now more of like a kind of a revert back to what we had before, and then how we can kind of combine both COVID safe practices and a new design strategy. That's cool.
For me, the silver lining was just kind of having my eyes open to how supportive and caring people actually are. So when you go from being in an office every day with a ton of people, and all of a sudden you're at home by yourself working remotely, people become more caring, more supportive. So it's like, I feel like this pandemic has brought my firm closer together. Everyone's just kind of going out of their way to see how people can help and assist each other. And I feel like it's just kind of reprioritizing people's priorities and how they treat people.
Mm-hmm.
100%.
I love that.
Thank you.
Any final thoughts?
I was just going to say, a silver lining, I think, is that really people have been at home since March. The design business is just booming in so many ways. And it is a field I feel so lucky to be a part of right now, because, people are just wanting to redo their work from home spaces, their home in general, because they've been sitting at home for so long. So I just think that we're really lucky. I think there's a lot of opportunities in our field right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the creativity that we're seeing with use of materials, but just overall people's design. It's like everybody is, we're just at home. So we're just thinking about what's cool, what's new, what's different.
Yeah.
It's really exciting to see what's going to happen in the next couple years. I think we're going to see some weird stuff, and I'm excited about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, that concludes the session. Thank you all so much. It is so fun to see your faces again and how you've grown in the short time since you've graduated. That's probably one of the most gratifying things as an instructor, is to see. So it's been really fun having you. Thank you so much. And I guess I'll just go ahead and close out our entire symposium. That wraps up our symposium. It was wonderful. That was our first annual. Yay. So we again hope to do it next year, so everyone can look forward to that again. We want to thank our sponsors again, Facilitech, Creative Furniture Connection, and our ASID chapter here. We really want to thank all of our panelists all throughout the day. We couldn't have asked for better people to share and their knowledge and experiences, so we really appreciate that. Our advisory board we want to thank as well, who were so instrumental in helping us plan this event. And last but not least, we want to thank all those who attended and took time out of their day to listen in. So we hope it was beneficial for all of you. All right, signing off. Thank you everyone so much.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye. Enjoy your weekend.